Okay, I had a hot water system that was working most of the time during the day, and then at night or so, it would not produce hot water even though we weren't using it. What I found is one of the elements is bad, and you could actually this is one of the elements here. This one's all bent, as you can see, and all corroded, and has holes in it, rusted holes. What happened is one of the elements went bad, the one on top. And I'll show you where they are in a minute. And what you got to do is you got to take an ohm meter. I got one here, and you measure. You turn the power off on the breaker. Remember, turn the power off on the breaker, and then you take one of the wires off, one of the elements, and then you put your leads on it. And this thing had an open. There was no ohmage. It should have about 14 ohms, and this one didn't have any. And the cool thing is you could test it while it's in the system still. Just take off one of the wires to make sure that you get the correct reading. And the bottom one had 14 ohms, the top one didn't, and you could tell why. It's all beat up. It's got this rusted hole in here and here. This isn't very old either. This is only about 5 years old. And this went bad. Look how warped that is. I think it's been bad since we've had it. We got this house foreclosed, so I think it's always been bad. I just didn't know it. And you're going to need little pliers, a 1.5 inch wrench specifically for this. And I use this as leverage in the hole of the wrench. See, it has a hole. And so that's about it. A normal one has 14 ohms. This one had 0. And what you do is you turn off the power to the unit for the breaker. Okay, on my hot water system, the left one is the hot valve, and the right one is the cold valve. You actually have to turn off the cold valve on the right. That's this one here, this yellow one. You just flip it to the 90 degrees, and that'll turn off the cold water going to the unit. That way you can start draining it on the next step. Okay, what you got to do is actually open up one of your faucets, hot water faucets in your house, so that the water tank can drain properly. Mine's actually going to show water coming out, but when you do this, no water's going to come out. And you just leave that open. It shouldn't have any water coming out, and then you'll be able to drain your system. Okay, after you get your cold water turned off up there, the next part of the draining system is to put a hose on this spigot here. And this is my valve. You might have a brass copper or with a screw on it. You might have to open up, but you put your hose on here, put it out to the street, and then you open up this valve. And if you have the cold water turned off, and if you have the sink hot open like I showed, water should start coming out of there. Let it run out until it stops. You don't have to do it really for the top one as much, but I would, if you haven't done this before, just let it run out until it stops. Then you can take the hose off here and close it up. Here's the actual element. It's like a big resistor. It should have between like 13 and 15 ohms. This one didn't have any ohmage, so I knew it was bad. And you just take those wires off, that yellow one, and then there's a black one there too on mine. And then you screw it off. You're going to need a lot of leverage. It's really hard to get off some of these. It took a lot of effort for me to get that screw off. I was afraid I was going to strip the old one. And then the bottom one, if it was having problems, I would do that. But that one had 15 ohms. I didn't have to worry about that one. But this one was a bad one. And then when you put it all back together, make sure you don't turn the electric on at all until you're completely done. If you do, you'll burn out your element. All right, after you get this out of there by unscrewing it with your socket, you basically put the socket on this huge nut and screw it out. Put the new one in, and I just showed you what the new one looked like. And then you go over and you reverse everything. You turn off the valve on the bottom, You take the hose off, then you turn the cold water supply back on the water tank, and you go to the sink and open up the hot water valve on all the sinks and let it get all the air out of the sinks. All you would have to do at that point is put the plastic cover back on, like I have here, and on whichever one was out and you took out, and then put your insulation back in. Put your covers back on, like this cover here. I have this cover, and you put it back on, and then I can't stress enough how much importance it is that you make sure that cold water is fully in the tank before you turn the power back on.